Rick, just your thoughts on the game as a whole and the finish to the season for your group.
Yeah, it was half decent early, and then third, execution again. But like I said, last game of the year, I thought the first part was pretty good.
Lankinen left after 2 periods.
Yeah, he pinched something. He just felt uncomfortable, so didn't want to risk anything.
It's kind of a weird situation just for these guys. I mean, they know the end is been near for a bit, and just to see it come to an end.
Yeah, it sucks, right? We talked about that this morning, but you got to learn from adversity. You look at a team like Vegas. That's what you strive for. They wear you down heavy on pucks. You got to win puck battle, things like that. But use it as motivation. To win in this league, you got to go through pitfalls.
Take me through what the next 48 hours are going to be like for you with player meetings and things like that coming up.
Yeah, the exit meetings are they're 10, 15 minutes with each guy. I mean, it's more than that down the road. You make phone calls, you go visit guys. That's a whole, But I think it's good for a 15-minute conversation to touch base what's going to happen and what you want to do in the summers and stuff like that. And that's really it, the process of it.
Rick, 11 months ago in this room, right after, within 20 minutes of your season ending, you were really quick to spotlight sort of the idea of putting respect back in the jerseys as something you were proud to have accomplished last season. Obviously a different feel this time around, but how do you reflect just as it's ended on sort of what you experienced over the past 7 months?
Yeah, I don't want to really play the what-if game. I think you got to reflect on the year, what could you have did different, scenarios, situations. I'm not going to use excuses at all. I know that you guys know this year what's happened, but you got to deal with that stuff. Could we have dealt with it better? Things like that, and that's why you got to take a deep dive. We talked about embracing the hard at the start of the year, and maybe we weren't ready for it.
Last week of the season, for an eliminated team, the pace kind of slows a little bit inevitably, even if you're still getting professional efforts, and you largely did. But then you sort of have in the third period, Kiefer Sherwood still throwing hits. Looked like he upset Jack Eichel on it. Obviously upset Nick Hague. What do you take from that, if anything?
Well, that's what you need, right? You want that kind of attitude. You're right. But at that point, the microcosm is we have the goalie pulled. We got 3 guys not moving in the middle of the ice, and that's kind of sometimes what happens, and we got to go through that barrier. You need the Sherwoods and those guys to keep pushing. That's what we need, and that's really what it comes down to. So yeah.
Rick, you've been honest with us about why you wanted to wait until after the season before you talked about your contract, and also that you needed to kind of debrief with Patrick and Jim and players. How long do you think the process will take before you know your status for next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we'll probably talk about it more in a couple of days, but there's things that you got to go through the process. There's There's a lot of different things, right? You got to go through, and the season just ended. Obviously, you just move along and see where it goes, right? But there's a lot. There's more stuff we got to talk about.
You coached for an extra month last year.
Yeah.
Has this been harder this year?
The season? Yeah. Well, it's been I mean every season's the one thing is you put your heart and soul in it, right? The coaches we worked really hard at it, and sometimes when you don't make the playoffs, you got to look at yourself. What could we? That's what we're going to go through is what we could have done better. Really, that's what I have to look at myself, and then you reflect and you go from there, and then you make changes or positive, reinforcements or whatever you do. I think it's important that we reflect on it.
In a similar note, I mean, you were eliminated last week, but the last 2-3 weeks have been, sort of on that edge. How challenging has it been for you as a coach in terms of approaching this sort of end of the season that wasn't what you wanted? Right.
It's challenging, but you also, there's guys in that room that, 6-7 guys from Abbotsford, the younger guys that you can't show them that you're frustrated and you're whatever. You got to keep coaching these guys because they're the future and their careers, they're impactful. You want to be impactful with them. So that's what I was proud of the coaches. We kept on coaching even tonight. Yogi's got the a play there. Obviously, we didn't execute it with the goal he pulled. But you just keep coaching. You got to just keep coaching hard.
And then you bring these young guys
Yeah.
up. You see them in preseason
Yeah.
in a sort of NHL context, but this is the NHL context.
Yeah.
What will you draw out from what you've? I guess you'll go back and look and see what their games were like. But what will you be looking for in your review of these last few games? To see
it's a good question. I think the first thing you look for is effort right away. I think that's the easiest one to pinpoint. And then there's digesting a game plan and can they execute it, I think can you retain the information and apply it the next game, things like that you look for. But there's a lot of guys are really tried out there, and I got to give them a lot of credit, especially down the stretch.
You're usually pretty stoic on the bench, but during Pat O'Neill's celebration at the end, even you had a nice smile on your face. A lot of people think of an equipment manager and, that, but there's so much more. What did he bring to this club?
Just consistency, just as constant consistency. Whether you lose 5-0, win 5-0, he always brought the same the next day. He's one of the, I call him the godfather of all the trainers. He's one of those guys that you go, any team that comes in, I don't care if it's Ottawa or it's San Jose, he's always got 3 or 4 people coming down to say hi to him because he's been here 40 years and he's done a hell of a job. I think every player will say that he's the same thing. He's constant. He's a great human being. And I don't think he's done in the sense, right? I think he'll still do some stuff. I hope he does some stuff for the Canucks because, but I think he's had his time. I think he wants to. I don't know if does Patty golf? I don't know if he golfs, but he just.
One of the things too. He's one of the guys that reads the room in a way, right? He gets the temperature of the team, and with his experience, obviously, it's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah, I feel like those guys like Stan Wilson, same thing as he was in Arizona and stuff, and Patty. They've been there for years. You wish those guys could win a cup. That Patty's like a guy. I wish he could win him a cup. Same thing, a guy like Stan Wilson. Those guys are just hard. It hurts when they lose too. They hurt. Everything's about the players, but the trainers, man, they put a lot of hours in, and they're slugging bags, and they're, win or lose, they're always doing the same thing, and they're part of the team. So yeah, it'd be nice. I actually hoped we would have won tonight for Patty, but didn't work out that way.
Tyler Myers this morning was the latest Canuck player to gush about the impact that you've had on him. What's it mean to you, the guys like he and Quinn and others have kind of gone to bat and talked about how much you mean to their careers?
Yeah, no, they're terrific guys to coach. I appreciate it, but those guys are, you come every day, and when there's adversity or when things are going good, these guys they're the same, right? They work hard. They're low maintenance guys. They want to win. They get frustrated like everybody, but every day they're Patty. They're constant. Every day, Tyler Myers or Quinn Hughes, every day at practice, where they do the same thing. They work hard. So we just got to kind of group a bunch of guys like that and keep moving forward.
As you go through your process in the next couple of days and make a decision, obviously dollar and term matters, but how much does that matter versus the direction of the team and what you hear from Jim and Patrick about potential changes and things that they're going to do to get this righted?
Yeah, it's like anybody. When you analyze stuff, you got to check boxes, right? And I got an unreal relationship with Patrick and Jim, so you go through the boxes. You check them off. It's just like a player, free agent. It's no different than trades. It's all that stuff. You got to go through that process. It really is a process. So that's really what it comes down to.
Niels Höglander feels like a player from the beginning of the year to now has gone through a lot of growth.
Yeah.
Tonight, on the one goal you guys score, he's winning the battle in the corner against 2 players. Can you speak to that growth and what you've seen and how he's found a role, found a way that he can contribute?
Yeah. No, Hoggy, his first half was, had a tough year, right? And I think the last, 7 weeks, he's been one of our better guys, right? Taking the information, but it's the same thing with him. He's got to He's got to really work on a few things this summer. Retention of hockey IQ, things like that. He's got to stay focused. I mean, these are things that when you're 24, 25, to get to the next level, you got to really do that. And I think the hockey's got to, and we got to help him, don't get me wrong. But the retention of stuff, the hockey IQ, that's the thing he's got to continue to work with. Because you watch him some nights, he's a hell of a player. But then he's got to make sure that he stays focused and things like that. But that's for the year-end exit, and that's where you really got to help a kid like that.
Yeah, frustrating for sure.
What about just finishing the season? I know you'd rather be in the playoffs, but since you knew for a couple of weeks you haven't been, are you happy to just kind of refocus and reset and look ahead now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been such a disappointing year that it's kind of like just not even going to look ahead to anything. Just go home, enjoy myself, and probably put my phone away and then see what happens.
What's your process now? The team will do exit meetings tomorrow, but for you, you take time off? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, definitely take some time off, and yeah, for sure.
Do you go to the Worlds if Team USA asks?
I don't think so, no.
Patty O'Neill and his career came to an end tonight. What can you say about what he's meant to you?
Yeah, he's just a terrific person, and we've had some great years, some tough years here through the 6 years I've been here, and he's the guy that no matter what you come in, he's got a smile on his face, and he's the same person to everyone. He acts the same every single day. So he's a legend in Vancouver, a pillar for the organization, and he's seen so much, so many great players, great people, coaches, management, captains, and he's definitely a legend here, and he'll be missed. And I talked to him today. I know his plan is to still be around the rink a little bit. Just it's going to be probably hard to go cold turkey for him, but yeah, just a tremendous human being, and yeah, he'll be around next year. So
you talk about that demeanor he has every day. How important is that for you guys to have that in a season like this, where you had all sorts of ups and downs and various things that happen?
Yeah, I mean, he's especially when I first came to this locker room, I'm 19 years old. He's probably looking at me like he's seen 1,000 of me. 19-year-old kids that don't know anything about anything, and he's just a tremendous person, and is great at his job first and foremost, but will go above and beyond for anyone, even that 19-year-old kid, and yeah.
Early in this game, it looked like you were a little more aggressive, taking a few more shots. Did the record matter to you? Did you want to get it done tonight?
I mean, I'm a competitive guy, so coming in the year, I knew that was something that I knew the number for sure that I needed to get to, and in my mind, there's no reason I shouldn't get there. So yeah, try my best. It's been a long year, whether it was today or whenever it happens. That'll be the case. It's not my, wasn't a number one focal point. It would have just been a nice milestone, and as far as some of the other things that happened here, I think that's more in my mind, where that's more upsetting some other things than that record.
Did you hear from Eagle when you tied the record?
No, but I think he probably thought there was a chance, knowing him, that it would be tonight, and he's such a great person, and another guy that was a tremendous leader when I was a young guy. So I'm sure I'll be hearing from him at some point, not only about that, but just about catching up. So.